We finish off the detail painting of the propeller, the engine cowl, the wheels, Muntenescu, add on the roundels, put the machine guns on, and also we're going to finish off the model by strutting it with the appropriate wiring.
Before we begin building Muntenescu's Nieuport, we must realize some things that are common to all Nieuport. Nieuports are painted with silver dope from the factory. This paint, made with aluminum flakes, strengthened the canvas fabric. The V-struts were left natural wood, while the center struts and wheel struts were painted to match the aluminum paint. Insignia was painted on by the countries that ordered them. Unlike other countries, Romania never painted on their own personal side markings such as shooting stars, dragons, you name it. They basically flew the airplanes with the red, yellow, and blue tail rudder as well as the updated markings.
Here's our Nieuport 17 after being painted with the aluminum paint. This would be the way that the plane would have come from the factory in France. Now we're ready to begin painting the roundels on our Nieuport 17. What's suggested in many paint magazines and other things is to start with the lightest color first, which in this case is our yellow. This is also good because it's the middle color of the roundels, which will appear in here. And that way, if we go over any of the lines, we can come in with the darker colors on top and cover them. Now we're going to have to take off these bits and get them ready separately. And take out Muntenescu through the front. And I'm going to shake up your paint. And here we go with the gloss yellow. Now we'll probably need 2 coats of yellow on here. And just follow that line all the way around. Make a nice circle. Don't worry about the inside ring or the outside. Just be concerned with getting the yellow on there. And there we have the start of our Romanian roundel. Now we're going to paint the roundels underneath the plane. And here you'll notice that we've got the strut sort of right in the way of the roundel. But don't worry about it, because if you paint the struts with yellow, you go over the top of them afterwards with the wood color the struts actually were. So you can actually bury the mistake of hitting the strut. I've switched to a wider brush because it's easier to get in on that circle without leaving streaks like the smaller brush did. And there we go with that one. And then we've got the smaller ones. The other thing is here on the tail rudder, it's red, yellow, and blue as well. Same way that the French had their red, white, and blue. So we'll start with the stripe, yellow, right up in here on the tail. Doesn't matter how wide it is because we'll be cutting over top of it with the red and the blue. And come down here. Remember, this goes all the way around underneath. And finally, to the other side. Try not to hit the tail fin. You just want to keep it on the rudder. And there's part of it. And we'll get into the red and the blue after. Now the next thing we're going to paint is the propeller. And we can reverse a clothes peg like this and peg the propeller in there on the spindle. And we'll just paint this with the natural wood color. And that bit right there will be painted brass afterwards. And there we go. Now here's something I want to show you with the cowl. I just painted the engine with the black on the cylinders, and this here is steel, but if I turn this over, you can see I've painted the inside all flat black. Now this is so that if your model's ever into a model airplane contest, they won't be able to pick it up and look in from up underneath that you haven't painted inside there. So always remember to paint as much as you can and only scrape the paint away where you're going to glue. Now here's a little trick for the pilots. See, there's no real way that you can hold him and paint him and, you know, paint him everywhere as he is. So here's an idea. You take a piece of sprue from the parts tree. This is a little chunk that I clipped off. Then you take your file and just file this flat right here. Don't need to worry about the finish of it, just as long as it's flat on one end. Then you take your model cement and you just put a bit on here. Then sit your pilot right on it. Just put a little bit back here. Now you're able to hook them in on a clothes peg again and paint them. So now it's time to paint our pilot. The first thing I'm going to do is give him some eyes. And I know that sounds pretty scary because he's well, really tiny. I mean, look, there's my thumb, there's his head. So, you know, you do the math. Anyway, I've got a 20/0 brush that I bought at an art supply store. And I'm just gonna bring him right up here for a sec. I'm gonna paint his entire eye with white paint. I'm not gonna worry about getting it on his helmet or anything. So there you see he's got his big white eyes in there. So now I'm gonna paint the brown part in his eyes. And I'm just going to use Testors 1140. Oops. There, he's starting to get like cat eyes. And then what we'll do is we'll take the skin tone and cut right in around the eyes, and you'll see that they will look like real eyes when we're done. I've used Testors 1167 flat tan as a skin color for Muntenescu. And here we have the finished Muntenescu pilot. You can see the aviation uniform of the French Army. So here we have Muntenescu's airplane with the roundels painted in, all by hand. And all that's left is the rudder, because I wanted to make sure the yellow was totally dry. Because what we're going to do is we're going to use this 1/4-inch tape. And I was noticing with the French decals that white area is practically that 1/4-inch right there. So I'm just going to use 1/4-inch and stick it right on the yellow, and then paint the red and the blue.